Hello everyone, my name is RWBY, and I got a first look at the first level of the RWBY ARROWFELL video game being developed and published by Wayforward, due for release in fall 2022. There was a playable demo in the RTX Austin 2022 exhibit hall on Saturday, July 2nd. A Wayforward developer guided players along, answered any questions, and allowed us to film and share the footage. RWBY ARROWFELL is a Shantae-style 2D action platformer Metroidvania game that will support both local couch co-op and online co-op. Players start out with RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang playable from the very beginning. There has been no word on more characters being playable later in the game, but personally I have my suspicions. The demo had about 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay of the very first level. I believe it was the first half of the first level. It seemed like it ended with a mid-level mini-boss, but I'll get to that later. I'm dividing this video into 3 main chapters, each with their own chapter markers. I will start with gameplay, then go to the story, and then end with the game's visuals. So first is gameplay. This felt very much like a Shantae game, but with the RWBY characters and world. Lots of the movement, platforming, special abilities, and controls are the same or similar to things you'd find in Shantae, at least so far. And please note, I've only played Half Genie Hero, but I know that Shantae is a very storied franchise going back to the Game Boy. Also, understand that I am making first impressions while only having played a bit of ARROWFELL's tutorial level, so there's inevitably going to be a lot more to the game than just what I saw. Maybe you unlock more characters with more powers that allow for the gameplay to stay fresh. Again, there's no confirmation yet, but I have my suspicions. This is the game's tutorial level, so here are the game's basics. All characters have melee attacks, projectile attacks, and semblance abilities. Each character has different attack animations, with Blake's feeling very similar to Shantae's hair whip in terms of the fluidity and the responsiveness. You start the game with 3 hearts and an aura meter. When your aura runs out, you lose a heart. Projectile attacks are more powerful than melee attacks, but they cost aura to use. Semblances, however, ironically do not cost any aura. But aura does regenerate over time, and it can regenerate faster if you unlock upgrades, which I'll get to in a second. The tutorial level introduces character swapping, semblances, and minor learning curve things. You can swap freely between the characters as much as you like, and it's very similar to Shantae's dances in Half Genie Hero that she uses to transform herself and, again, go through different abilities, much like the RWBY characters you'll go through to get to their other semblances. And speaking of which, here are the semblance abilities. RWBY dashes forward, which if you do in the middle of a jump, it can help you reach hard-to-reach places. Weiss summons a platform that, after a short delay, changes into a glyph that shoots icicles for a short duration. Blake summons a temporary, stationary shadow clone that mimics the active character's melee attacks while they move freely. The clone can also activate pressure plates. Yang punches the ground to destroy nearby breakable obstacles. And both Weiss and Blake's abilities will stay active even if you switch to a different character. There are collectibles called skill points hidden in the world. You can use the skill points to upgrade 4 aspects of each of the 4 girls: melee attack damage, ranged attack damage, character defense, and aura heal, the rate that your aura bar refills. To reach one of the hidden skill points out in the world, you need to create a platform as Weiss and then switch to RWBY to dash over a gap. Additionally, you can collect a currency appropriately named Lien, hidden in the levels too. Lien had no use in the demo, but in the full game, you can use it at different settlements that you visit over the course of the story. There are merchants that sell items such as health upgrades and skill points. There are also mid-level save points where the 4 girls will come out and strike poses in unison. And now for the end of the demo, the Megalithic mini-boss. This boss can charge you, it can hurl boulders at you, and the boulders do have lingering, smaller rocks that will still damage you. I noticed that catching quite a few players off guard as they played the demo, including myself. It can also summon icicles from the ceiling. Personally, I used Blake's shadow clone to attack the boss from a safe distance while I dodged the icicles. The Megalithic did not have a visible health meter, but it also didn't really require too many hits to defeat. This isn't far off from how bosses operate in the Shantae series, though there is usually some visual indication of them taking damage over time. I didn't quite get that with the Megalithic, but it's also not like it took too much effort to defeat anyway. Now for the story. RWBY ARROWFELL is set in the RWBY Volume 7 Chapter 5 montage, right after Team RWBY had just received their Huntress licenses in the episode prior. At the start of ARROWFELL, Ironwood sends Team RWBY on their first mission, to clear Grimm around the Amity Tower launch site. This is the type of task that we know they also had in the main show. They go through the level and clear out the fodder Grimm. These flying Grimm were revealed at the 2021 panel. They are called Razor Wings. The level also had Wombat-like Grimm, and from the 2 trailers that we've seen so far, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff, we've also seen Beowulfs, Borbatusks, Queen Lancers, and Little Spider Grimm. After you defeat the Megalithe boss, a cutscene begins where it stands back up and starts fighting Team RWBY, but Team Briar, spelled B-R-I-R, intervenes. Team Briar is made of Bianca, Roan, Ivory, and Ruda, and they each have matching tattoos and thorn ornaments, if you notice the spikes on their outfits. As of now, their role in the story has been intentionally left vague, other than that they are not from Atlas, but they appear antagonistic, at least to me. Because remember, there are plenty of huntsmen and huntresses in the world of RWBY who will take any mission if the money is right. There is more to the cutscene, which we can also tell from the trailer. This shot happens right after the cutscene in the demo, but the demo ends right in the middle of this cutscene. I believe that in the final game, after more of the cutscene, the level will continue, but the demo ends with a message showcasing the late 2022 release date. Of course, this demo is not the only thing that's been released for RWBY ARROWFELL thus far. There have also been 2 trailers. The first one shows Team RWBY fighting against Elysian soldiers, robots, and mechs on the top of a train, and one of the gameplay levels does go through said train. There is also an Elysian rooftop level that may coincide with these shots of Team RWBY, with this new guy coming at them in a mech. But most of the footage we've seen of this game is somewhere out in the Atlas Tundra, including this level set outside of a Schnee Dust Company mine. In another cutscene, it appears that Team RWBY has apprehended a criminal inside of a dust mine, and the criminal triggers some explosives. The following shot shows Team RWBY with a Faunus miner in a dust storage room, and it might be part of the same scene, but also it might not be. Personally, I do think it could go either way. It might not be part of the same scene. That is it for the story. Now it is time to talk about the visuals of RWBY ARROWFELL. The visual design goal for RWBY ARROWFELL is to make it feel like RWBY, but also let Wayforward have their own touch on it. At the start of ARROWFELL's development, Rooster Teeth Animation gave Wayforward all of the characters' bona fide Atlas Arc character models, and when Wayforward came back with a proof of concept of what they were working on, Rooster Teeth then wanted them to use a more Shantae-like 2D chibi art style, which we can see in the footage that was released back in July 2021. Here are a couple different chibi models they were deciding between for Ruby Rose at the time. However, the playable demo at RTX, as well as the new trailer that just released, both used new 3D models for the playable characters that are still chibi-like and with a lighting system that is evocative of the one used in the main RWBY series. Additionally, both the foreground and background of the environments in the levels felt like they might as well have been lifted from the main show, visually speaking. Now, they weren't lifted from the main show, but when I was playing the demo at the convention, I really did feel like what I was playing looked just like RWBY proper. RWBY ARROWFELL also uses about 6 minutes of pre-rendered cutscenes made entirely in-house at Rooster Teeth Animation. And that does it. As usual, if I missed anything, it will be in the description along with my sources. If you can make any style or any genre of a RWBY video game, which game would you make? Let me know down below. And while you're around, like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. I'm RWBY Rising. Have a good one.